Welcome. Tom Dover from the Cedar High class of 1964. In July of 2024, we held our 60th class reunion for the Cedar City, Utah High School class of 64. There were about 60 people who attended, several who tried to make it and told us they were going to try and make it, but couldn't at the very last minute, and we certainly understand that. So this and the two companion videos that's on the DVD are designed to provide a history and record of the reunion, which was a great evening for all. And additionally, we honor those who have passed on. Now, sadly, since the reunion, which is back in 2024, in the middle of the summer, in 2025, February, which is today for me, 5 more classmates have died. They are Mary Ann Grimshaw, Patsy Boynes, Paul Gardner, Scott Berry, and Susan Seaman. They are honored in this video as well. I've appended them to the end of Linda's presentation. 50 classmates have died according to our records, and we're pretty dang certain that we don't have accurate records for every member of the class of 1964. So the information that we do have that's shown here of the full 45 classmates, a separate video by the way, that has been gathered from obituaries, family history searches, public records, friends, family, and a lot from fellow classmates. And we're always looking for new information to enter into the Class Creator webpage, so please help the effort along if you're able. This video can be updated if needed and reposted to YouTube, so we'll see what happens down the road. Linda Condi, Bennion, narrates this video with guest appearances from several classmates, and there's a lot, I got to tell you, there's a lot of humor here and a lot of fun that goes with it. And then at the end, there will be a transition to the 5 who have moved on since July. You know, we thank you for your interest and participation. A DVD with all 3 videos is available upon request from any of the committee members or via a message on the Class Creator page. Enjoy.
Really fun for me to be on this committee and to be able to call some of you and visit and see how you're doing. It's been really fun. I've enjoyed that so much. I did want you to know though, I just have to brag a little bit. I can still fit in the same earrings I wore in high school. Yeah, it's a good thing we're all wearing name tags, don't you think? Although I think some of you have paid some of your children to come and stand in for you today. I'm sure you did. My doctor calls it maturity now. Every time I go in, he tells me it's just maturity. You're just maturing. And so I thought of some things that we're all maturing with. I think being mature has a different meaning these days. So it's like I think we've all matured pretty well, don't you? I mean, we're still here, right? So that's a good thing. I read that an all-nighter, we all remember the all-nighter? Well, now it means not having to get up to pee. And now, yeah, I can too. And now all of the names in my contact list end in MD. And you know, my birthday candles cost more than the cake these days too. And now getting lucky means finding your car in the parking lot. We found from contacting a lot of our classmates that very many of us are experiencing ill health and aren't able to get around, and for that reason this might be our very last class reunion. you know, it'd be great to get together, have small get-togethers now and then, but this will probably be our last official class reunion. And so, but you know what, happiness is a class reunion, isn't it? We've enjoyed it, especially now in these tender years. There are fun things to talk about, and we want to make this kind of a family atmosphere type thing. So if you want to say something, either speak out or raise your hand if you have something to say while we're talking about certain things. Do any of you have memories of our old school teachers? Yeah.
Speak up.
Yeah. Say.
Speak up.
Oh, you can't hear me? I'm sorry. Do any of you have memories of our old school teachers?
Which one?
That you want to talk, well, any of them that you have memories of that you want to speak up about?
This is just a short memory. I remember Mrs. Helm. Does anybody remember Mrs. Helm?
Yes.
And I remember her talking in Old English. When that April.
Oh,
I remember. But Mrs. Helm really impacted me. I was a little bit afraid of her.
Hello. Mike is quick.
I can yell. Virgie Frame, do you remember her?
Yes.
And she'd walk up and down the aisles, and if she was in the back, then the front kids would start making this humming sound. And so she'd go towards the hum. And so then the kids in the back would hum and they would be quiet. Did any of you remember that? We just drove her nuts, the poor woman.
I tell some stories.
All the bike works.
On out.
I remember Mr. Garfield, but one of the reasons I remember him is because I had him in elementary, I had him in junior high, I had him in high school. He was following me around. But I remember after we moved into the new high school and we had those little study rooms behind the main classroom, and he was leaving the class. He left the classroom quite a bit. And I think one of the reasons, I found out later, I think he had diabetes, and you know what that can do. But anyway, we all decided to go and crowd into the little study room so that when he came back, he couldn't find us. Well, you'd think he'd have opened the door, but he didn't. He came in, we were very quiet, the lights were out, and he never found us. I remember Mr. Garfield. Who was our English teacher, though, as seniors? What was his name? Oh, he was good. He was good. I remember him.
I just remember Coach Decker. In 1973, when I was in that car wreck and had about every bone in my body broke, I was on crutches, but I was still on the team, the baseball team. And I was on crutches, but he let me pitch against Perrin on crutches. And I know that he just did that after I got older. I thought, you know, he just did that because he knew I lost my mother in that car wreck, and he was the nicest person to me. And I played golf with him years after for a lot of years. I just love Coach Decker. I just thought, what a guy to let somebody pitch that couldn't even run. I mean, I would have to go up there and strike out or something like that. I can't even remember how it worked, but he let me pitch against Perrin when we won.
I don't have any fond memories about a teacher from high school. But out of high school and in the military, our biology teacher, Glade Sorensen, who was also a member of the same outfit, made quite an impact on me. Her presentation.
If we're talking coaches, I remember Jack Sawyer being out on the football field. I hollered at him, "Hey, Jackie!" And he started towards me and was going to beat me up, and I kept running. And he came to me later and says, "Dan, I'll give you a B grade if you'll never come to my class again.
Thank you. Thanks, Danny.
Our first person to remember is Retana Terry. Now, she actually passed away before our last reunion. She died in 2018. Retana passed away on July 26, 2018 in West Alabama. She was married to James Montgomery and they had 2 children. She worked at Leigh Buick Mercedes. I remember Retana as being just a fun, outgoing person, and she always made me laugh. Does anyone have any fond memories of Retana?
She lived right up the street from me, and we played one summer, and I was so sad when she left. It was on 100 North, 547, whatever. That was a long time ago. But anyway, she was a lot of fun.
The next person is Lark Flanagan, and he actually passed away the same day as our last reunion.
Before it was over.
Yeah, before it was over, I think. On July 6th, Lark attended school in Cedar City from first grade through college, receiving an associate's degree in automotive technology. He spent much of his early years working with his parents on a horse ranch in Cedar City. In 1963, he worked at Bryce Canyon National Park and noticed a young lady who was a dancer in the state show. He could not take his eyes off her. They were later married in March of ’64, and then they were sealed in the Salt Lake Temple in '67. They had 5 children, 17 great-grandchildren, and 7 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. Lark liked tooling leather, old country music, and classical jazz. Does anyone have memories of Lark to share?
Ironically, Lark did pass away on the very time that we were having the reunion 5 years ago. Sometime after that, a few months after that, I'd received a handwritten note from Lark telling me that he was sorry that he was unable to attend. I had no idea in the world that he was even ill. A few months later, I got a call from a family friend, and she says, "Do you have that note?" I said, "Yes, I do." And she says his wife would love to have that note. And so I contacted Marcia, who actually I gave all that stuff to at the end of the day. And as far as I know, that note was handed back to his wife. He wrote it, and then he died, and then he continued to live on. I thought that was pretty cool.
Christine Forsyth Reese passed away on March 30th, 2019 at age 73. She had 3 sons, and because of the example of her mother, Christine was always involved in educational pursuits. She studied finance and banking at the University of Utah. She worked as a teller at Valley Bank and eventually became vice president at Bank One. She finished her career at Zions Bank as an executive senior vice president. She was an avid golfer and loved watching the Jazz and the Utes. I always thought of Christine as being outstanding and focused. Does anyone have fond memories of Christine?
I might have told this because she passed away just before our last meeting. I might have already said this. But I went to see her and she was in assisted living, and I had taken a yearbook up to show her pictures in the yearbook, and she was looking at different people in our senior class, and she said, "Oh, they have big hair." And I said, "We all did." And she said, "We did?" And she had big hair.
I think mine was bigger.
I loved her dearly, and I miss her every day.
Earl Schoolgard passed away on October 1st, 2019 in Salt Lake City at the age of 74. He married Cynthia Jackson in 1988. They had 3 children. Earl served in the Marines. He enjoyed hunting and fishing. Does anyone have memories of Earl to share?
I'd just like to say a little bit about Earl Skogard. He was my friend. We were both little short kids in high school. I grew tall after I graduated, but Earl didn't. Anyway, he was really a neat guy. And at that last reunion, he wanted to talk genealogy with me because he'd heard that we were related somehow. And I had to tell him I didn't know. I said, my wife is the genealogist, and she's got pneumonia, and she's not here today, so I can't do it. We'll do it at the next reunion. And then he passed away. And I had the opportunity of going up to Parowan to his funeral. And Martin is a great speaker in a funeral. He talked in his brother's funeral. And he told about when he and Earl were little kids growing up. They lived over on the east side of town somewhere on one of the streets on the east side of Cedar City, and he said they used to like to hike up on the Red Hill. And that really, he said they spent a lot of time on the Red Hill. That rang a bell with me because I've always liked to hike up there since Dan Roberts and me did it in 9th grade. And you just have to make your own trail. There's no trail there. But as I listened to Martin talk about that, I vowed to myself, for me and for Martin and for Earl, I'm going to hike up on top of that hill before the next reunion. And I did. On June 9th this year, we were having a heat wave, but June 9th was a real cool day. And we heard that a few days ahead. So my grandson and me planned it. We're going to go on that day because I got to do this before my class reunion. And I'm going to die if I do it in the heat. But that was a cool day. So we did it. It was 2 of my sons and 3 of my grandsons and me. Went up on top of that red hill and just had a great time. It about killed me. By the way, somebody around here has a lot of extra energy because they planted one of those sheep that you see in October when they have the sheep parade, and the businesses have these wooden sheep that they put out in front of their business. There's one of those wooden sheep up on top of that red hill, and I've got a picture of it to prove it. So I probably tell you this more for me than for Earl and Martin, but it was Martin's wonderful talk at Earl's funeral, and Earl was a great person. He was really a nice guy, and I just want you all to know that, and know that I know it, and I appreciate Earl, and I appreciate you, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Great comments. Just what we're looking for.
So, Don Reed, we could not find an obituary for Don
They
Reed.
didn't print one.
Yeah, so we did find a little bit of information. He was born, well, of course, 1946. And then he passed away the 8th of August, 2020. He married Lynn Bauer, 26th of June, 1970, and they had 3 children, Brennan, Stephanie, and Brian. He was buried in Cedar City. So does anyone have any information on Don Reed?
I'd like to say something. I'm a guest here. Karen's husband is what I'm always referred to. But I'm from Salt Lake. I met Don. I came to school down in Southern Utah my sophomore year. And Joe Ward was a friend of mine in Salt Lake, and he introduced me to Don. Karen knew Don really well. Don introduced me to Karen. So we eventually got married. But Don was probably the best friend. He was the best man at my wedding. When I came down to the school down here, as probably most of you know, Don did not do any dating at all. So So I was his date. We must have put 10,000 miles on Main Street. And running down every night. Don was a great guy. I'm sure most of you know him. And I'll always remember him.
Maureen Delaney, last name was Lynn when she passed. We couldn't find an obituary for her either. But however, between Shirley Bullock and Marcia and I, we came up with quite a bit. Mo and I had many long conversations, and if any of you have ever had a phone call from Mo, you know it was a long conversation. No such thing as a short one. It was fun though. I visited her at her home in Las Vegas a couple of times. Her grandson lived there with her, and she pretty much adopted him. They were really close family. She cherished friendships, and we had a funny connection though. I would put her name on the temple prayer roll, and since she was Catholic, and my husband was Catholic at the time, she would put his name on the Knights of Columbus prayer roll. I loved that girl. Shirley remembers that she had a conversation with Maureen, or a connection, I mean. And she says that Mo and I were able to start phone conversations after many, many years of no communication. We would talk for hours. See what I mean? Long conversation, yeah. No subject was off limits with Mo. We were very comfortable sharing with one another and found our lives and experiences intertwined in crazy ways. Mo always went the extra mile when helping others. She even visited with Mormon missionaries in her home if they would leave the Book of Mormon outside. Her memory was outstanding. I will always treasure those conversations. We gave each other much strength, and she taught me so much about real life. I am a true believer that people can come into our lives for a reason. Yes, I miss Mo so much, and I'm thankful to know her like I did. And Marcia says she had great memories of Mo. She remembered that Mo worried about lots of people. She would always reach out to help. She didn't like recognition. Her Cedar memories are what she talked about the most. She had lots of responsibility in her early years. She never forgot a kind deed done for her. She worked at one of the big hotels in Las Vegas and had lots expected of her. She later was a hairstylist and then did makeup for a mortuary in Las Vegas. She liked to hunt and kept the taxidermist busy. And I can remember going to Mo's house, and her living room was just full, lots of heads of animals hanging up there in her living room. Does anyone have memories of Maureen?
Well, I had a phone call after Carlson passed away. I had a phone call, and I thought it was Maureen, but she said her name was Kim Delaney, and she called to ask me to get a phone number for Carlson. And
Speak up.
oh, you heard me? I didn't mean that. Anyway, is there a Kim Delaney? Because I thought it was Maureen, but she said her name was Kim.
I don't know, maybe it's a relative.
I don't know. And she swore like a trucker.
Oh, could have been.
Yeah.
I just want to say about Maureen that she was always pleasant with me. We had a relationship that didn't involve anything but visiting and good vibes. We had a lot of good conversations, mainly at the school lunch. Thank you.
In 2023, we lost Paula Milner Wilcox, but we knew her as Penny Milner. She passed away December 6, 2023 in St. George, Utah. She was born, 1946, like the rest of us. She lived in Hilo, Hawaii, Richfield, Utah, Springville, Utah, and then ultimately Cedar City, where she spent most of her life. Penny graduated from Continental College of Beauty in Salt Lake City. She married Evan Wilcox December 17, 1966 in the St. George Temple. She managed Cedar Break Lodge and restaurant. They had one daughter and 4 grandchildren. Penny was a good friend of mine. She was always kind and caring, and she had a great sense of humor. Does anyone else have memories of Penny? Alan Hunt. Alan James Hunt passed away December 30th, 2023 in Montrose, Colorado. He was married to Leonie Hunt, and they had 10 children and 26 grandchildren. After serving a mission in Australia, Alan graduated from BYU with a bachelor's degree. He taught seminary. He then earned a master's degree in instructional technology from Utah State University. After his teaching career, he worked for the College of Eastern Utah and then for the Utah Navajo Health System. He and his family traveled on many family history trips and camping trips. He raised Arabian horses and loved music. He and his wife wrote many songs together. I loved reading this. It just shows the selfless nature that Alan had. Does anyone else have memories of Alan to share? Oh, our Deanne Matthews O'Brien passed away January 21st, 2024. She was born in Logan, Utah, and moved to Cedar City after graduating from Cedar High. Deanne attended the College of Southern Utah. She lived a year in Bolivia with her parents, and then lived in Salt Lake City and attended the University of Utah, earning her BA degree in biological science. Deanne was a graduate student at the University of California, Irvine School of Biological Science, and received a PhD in neuroscience in 1975. She then worked at the City of Hope Research Institute in Duarte, California as a postdoctoral fellow and research scientist. After raising her family, she returned to teaching science of International Polytechnic High School and retired in 2002. Deanne was married to Charles O'Brien, and they had 2 daughters and 2 grandchildren. She doesn't disappoint, does she? What a woman. Does anyone have memories of Deanne?
Dan got me for Sadie Hawkins Day one year. And I was doing my best to stay out of sight and mind. Anyway, my sisters let her younger sister in the house to drag me out. And I'm in my bedroom in my underwear. And I had already jimmied my window, so when my parents went to sleep, I could get out the window and go do whatever I did at night. So bravely, I hopped out the window in my underwear. There she was waiting for me. I didn't go to the dance that way, though. I did put some trousers on.
That's Sir Robert Rosenberg, known as Bob Rosenberg. He passed away February 6, 2024. Bob is known for being a loving husband, fisherman, and humble philanthropist. He was married to our Bennion Aphrodisian. They were sealed in the St. George Temple. Bob was immediate father to Betty's 2 sons, Mark and Robert Davis, and they had a daughter, Lisa. They had 6 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. Bob always had a joke, a kind word, or $1 to share. That really sounds like Bob, doesn't it? He was always doing a kind deed for others in need. He loved his pets. Bob was a skilled artist. He worked with metal, wood, barbed wire, horseshoes, license plates, and more. What a talent. Bob contributed to Veterans Memorial Park. He was an Army veteran and served as an Army Specialist E5 in the 36th Artillery Service Battery. He served in Germany and was enlisted from 1963 to 66. Bob worked at the iron mines and then later in life worked at Western Rock. Does anyone have memories of Bob to share?
Bob and I grew up together. I lived where Bradshaw Chevrolet was, and he just lived around the corner. And we played baseball together and threw rocks at the Indians. The Indians would get on one side of the creek and we'd be on the other side. We'd use our flippers and slingshot, when we didn't kill each other, but finally the cops come down and took our flipper away because we made a big flipper that shoot bricks. But me and Bob went fishing together every week. He'd take his boat and then I'd take mine, and we usually go to Panguis Lake and we'd always fill up. And he knew a lot about fishing, and he was just such a super good friend of mine. I would have never been able to pitch baseball if it wouldn't have been for Bob. We would take turns, he was a pitcher also, and we'd take turns trying to throw strikes. And if you threw three people out as strikes, then the other guy would throw, and if you threw 4 people that walked, then the other guy would switch. But we did that for hours and hours. There's just nothing I can say about Bob that isn't good. One day I went up there to visit him, and he had MS, and his eyes were getting bad, and his legs were getting bad. And of course, I found him down the street picking peaches for this lady that was older. He'd always go help the elderly. And I said, Bob, what are you doing up on that ladder? Get down and I'll help you. He said, no, I can do it. A little later, here comes this lady out to pay him. And she was going to hand Bob some money, and Bob said, I don't want your money. I'd rather have the blessings than the money. I got plenty of money. I haven't got enough blessings. But he just had good answers, and him and Betty are still my best friends. I just love them to death.
Bob is a major contributor to the Class Creator software, as most of you already know. And it's still out there. And if you will keep your information current, it's easier for people to find you. So any help there will be appreciated as well. Any other comments before we move on?
And then Eric Hopkins, he moved away from Cedar City before his senior year. He passed away June 21st in St. George, Utah, well, it was in St. George, and just 7 months after his wife passed away. Eric was a cousin of Danny Condi and I, and we happened to be there that day that he passed. It was quite a spiritual experience. Eric worked at the VA hospital in Salt Lake City for 34 years as an addiction therapist. He was married to Grace Jones for 47 years. They had 1 daughter. He lived in Hurricane, Utah for his retirement years, and he had a great sense of humor and was fun to be around. Does anyone remember Eric? He was really quiet, I think.
Smart.
He was smart. He was smart. Do we have time for the last segment? At this time, we'll begin another segment, and hopefully we'll all want to take part in this one. We would like, you know what, we're not going to probably have another reunion, so we're not going to be reading your obituaries, okay? So we would like very much for you to share things about your lives. And so we'd like to just pass the mic around and just tell us what you've been doing, what, kids, how many kids, children, all that, grandchildren, just fun things, interesting things.
I just wanted to mention Ralph and Betty would love to have been here with us today. His older brother passed away a few months ago down in Vegas, and Ralph made 3 or 4 trips from Massachusetts out to Las Vegas, and so he was a little bit tight as far as being able to come. But he did want me to, I gave him a copy of the invite, so he's aware of it, and also he made special requests that I give Martin, or talk to Martin Schoolguard and let him know that he would love to be here. But I just want to let you know that he wanted to be here, and I just wanted all you to know that. Thank you.
Anybody else right now? For 5 years I've lost sleep over this. The last time we had a reunion, I didn't acknowledge our student body president. And here he is, again, faithful. And there's a lot that's gone on in the last 60 years. Sheldon was a very big part of our life during those years. a veteran and has done so many other good things in his life. So I can sleep tonight, Shinks. We're on it. We're good to go. All right. Is there any other comments before we go ahead and close out this evening? What a wonderful evening it's been.
Yeah, give everybody a big clap.
Anyway, we want to thank all of you who made that special effort to come here and be together with us. And it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. I'll turn the time over to Tom with a shout of many thanks to him too. He has worked really hard on the last two of our, at least two, right? At least two of our class reunions. So thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Linda. You know, this was recorded the best I could with the resources that I had that evening. It was a lot of fun, and there were a lot of memories that were shared, and really something to remember and laugh about, to be honest with you. As promised, I've created 5 more pages of those who have moved on since the reunion last July to this date in February. These 5 are Mary Ann Grimshaw, Patsy Boynes, Paul Gardner, Scott Berry, and Susan Seaman, who was the most recent. We have included what we know, which in most cases with this 5 is not very dang much. So let's begin with Mary Ann Grimshaw in the order of the date of their passing.
Thanks, Tom. As noted, 5 of our classmates have passed since the July reunion. We have produced a short extension to this video aimed at honoring these 5 individuals from limited resources and records. In this segment, I will discuss each along with the information on them. Let's begin with Mary Ann Grimshaw, who was the first to pass on after the reunion, followed by Patsy Boynes, Paul Gardner, Scott Berry, and finally Susan Seaman. Mary Ann was raised in Enoch. After high school, she married Kent Terry in 1965, and they had 4 daughters. In 1986, she married Fran Richardson and added a son. Mary Ann cherished every friend. She was loving and compassionate to all. She shared her means as often as she could. After years of serious ill health, Mary Ann passed away in Washington County, where she had resided for many years. On the 20th of August, 2024, she was buried in Enoch, Utah. Patsy Boynes Smith said farewell to friends and family as she passed away in September of 2024. Ever close and cared for by her angel daughter, Micah, and family, as Patsy suffered declining health, she had her own family team who nurtured her and saw to her every need. She had many challenges with her health that required constant care, a far cry from the bubbly blonde who skipped through the halls at the junior high school singing Felix the Cat, the wonderful, wonderful cat. Paul Gardner died on November 4th, 2024 in Salt Lake City, Utah. Paul was a resident of Salt Lake City most of his life and was an engineer for various defense contractors and companies during his career. He graduated from the University of Utah with a degree in electrical engineering. Paul and Rosalie retired early to tour the country in a motorhome. It took them a full year to examine every corner of the United States, enjoying the country and bridge tournaments. They were avid bridge partners, engaging with many famous names along the way in various tournaments. It was a great time for them as vascular dementia struck about 2018 to 2019 and progressed until death last fall. Paul planned a few years before his illness to donate his body to the University of Utah Medical School. In the end, the neuroscience medicine school made good on his desires. Rosalie held a small celebration of life for Paul shortly after his death. There were no formal services. Scott Berry passed away peacefully on November 28, 2024. Scott, a true American cowboy, was honored by a large gathering of friends and neighbors who loved him greatly, each one wishing to add comments to his great integrity and serving soul. He often just dropped in to bring something to someone who he thought had a need. A bowl of homemade soup, a piece of meat, and in one case, a horse to a young person who really wanted to learn to ride. He shared his time, stories, and self to so many people. He served our country with honor. He was an energetic student post-serving his country, but ultimately he let service to others over science win out. As of February 2025, the last classmate to move on was Susan Seaman. Susan Seaman Nudie returned home to her Heavenly Father and earthly parents on January 23, 2025. Susan was born February 10, 1946, to Reed Smoot Seaman and Mary Albertson Seaman in Cedar City, Utah. Surrounded by loved ones, she passed away peacefully in Taylorsville, Utah. She had a great love of music and was often in the school orchestra, playing the violin throughout high school and college. Always a hard-working student and lifelong learner, she enjoyed working in her father's Main Street clothing store, Smoot's Apparel. Susan graduated with a teaching degree from the College of Southern Utah, SUU, and taught elementary school for 16 years in Tooele and the Granite School District.
This completes the main event of the evening from last July's class reunion. What a great evening. Much work has been put into capturing the party, and you can find all of it within the 3 videos in this package. Speaking of which, all videos are on the CHS YouTube page, which is youtube.com, then a / at class of 1964. May have a little trouble getting there, but they're there. And of course, you can contact the class via the class creator webpage, which has been up for many years and in the past. Still good, still works, so please use that as well to communicate. Additionally, we're offering the DVD containing all 3 videos, the open and close, the full 45 that preceded the 2024 reunion, and in this video, of course, the main program. Free of charge to anyone wishing to have a copy. Now, it's not likely the DVD will be updated moving forward, but the YouTube channel and the class creator pages will be. You can contact me, Tom Dover, and my email, by the way, is tom@tomdover.com, Marcia Perkins, Dion Jackson, Rob, Linda Condi, Bennion, or Bob Tuckett. And better still, if you got friends and classmates wishing to have a copy, let us know. We'll send you the copies and you can distribute them. You know, our years are moving us along far too fast, and these are treasured memories. So from the committee, we wish you the very best. Please do keep in touch with each other. We thank you so much for enjoying it, for being classmates and being friends. Take care and good night.